Okay, so welcome back. All I've done in that short period of time is just clean it up a little bit. So here he is. Just going to see if I can move this back a little bit. Adjust my camera a touch. So there he is. We've got his pointy ears on. We've got his eyes in a position. We've now got his arms and his hands in his pockets. His legs defined. His feet a little bit better. His cape in the background. There you go. Going to round that off later, which you can do yourself. We don't need to watch me do that. Just go around watching. Just take off the edges. Just roll it in a touch, which we've done on one and not on the other. Okay, just make sure he's looking relatively level. I can already see looking back on that then I'm a little bit heavy on one side of his legs compared to the other. So just move that one in. So I'm happy with that. Right, so we're moving back up into the face now. What we could have done is gone a little bit deeper on that nose, I think, but we'll go with it. We'll see how we go. We were rolling the knife up against this nose before, so just get that in. Okay. And we got a relatively nice deep should have taken my time to strop my knife then, shouldn't I? Okay. What we'll end up doing is to give him a little bit of a brow, and what that will do is give him a slightly more sinister look. Because Batman's he's been through some hardship, hasn't he? So we know that if he's the real Batman, then he's not the most impressed. He's lost his parents, you know. Things aren't all rosy. And if he's not the real Batman and he is a dressed up impersonator, child's father, then he will also be a bit miffed. He's got to do this at all. So we're just going to go in above that eye line. We're just going to roll the cuts back. I'm still trying to maintain that rounded look. Okay. And we're going to use a gouge to come in at the eye line here. Just start removing. We'll start light. Just going to look at putting some eye sockets in. So I'm going to go gentle to start with, just to work out roughly where I want to be, how I'm going to do it, which way the wood prefers to be cut. Just wondering how deep to go. gently does it. And we want this area to be relatively smooth. I don't want to be going back and cleaning up too often when we get the depth that we're looking for. We want to go relatively deep, but we also don't want to ruin what we've done so far. We also want to keep it relatively level. With my knife, I'm just going to run up. What we've got to remember here is he's wearing a mask, so you don't want too many cuts. That'll be too defining. It doesn't look like he's wearing a mask. I think we're there and thereabouts. We could possibly take those eyes a little bit deeper. I think we will. I think we will. This is the point where I think, what did you do that for? Just need to be careful I don't knock the nice brow ridge I've now created on the top. And also don't want to make nasty little lines in there. I want to keep that relatively smooth. But I'm going quite deep now. And we want that on the other side. We want to keep a fairly similar depth. Okay, I think we've probably done that. And then his mask, we're going to have it going kind of over the top of the nose and down. And we'll have it going down here, I think. Don't worry about it being too even, that'll give it character. I'll just give it some character, that will. So that's almost like the smile lines you normally would off a normal face. So we just go down and around, and we'll just cut them in. What we'll do right at that nose is we will just define that nose a little bit with a little chip out at the bottom of that nose. Okay, try to take this as slow as I can so you can see, you can follow. Just shaping those, shaping that face as we go as well. So we've got that mask-like look in there, and we're going to go the same the other side. I'm going to follow that around and down. So you have on that side. Again, don't worry too much if it's not level. I think that might add to his character a little bit. And who knows, it might lead to a different type of expression or something. Now, by doing these cuts for this mask, it's allowed us to just get under that nose a touch. I wasn't overly happy with the depth of that nose when I'd done it. That being said, he's now becoming quite a deep nose because I've been able to get under it. So there's no panic there. As I've said on some of my previous videos, when we're doing a nose, the nose is kind of mostly in the face rather than on the face. So you can get some depth on this fella. Just as part of a talk now, I don't necessarily need to with the mask on, but you can get that cut in there, and then remove that chip. Should have just popped out. 9 times out of 10 it pops out. When you're on video it doesn't. And that will just give you some depth. You can see that shadow going back. That will just help create a bit more depth on the nose. Same on the other side. Okay, and then we're just gonna shape this into a bit more of a mound. Be thinking now about type of face we might want to give him. We're going to give him a smile. We're going to give him a grimace. So you can have an aggressive look about him. We can think about all of that now, because this is where we're going to shape the mound of the mouth to look how we want him to look. I always think Batman is a slightly grumpy character. You know, life's not been brilliant to him, and he's got a load of weird villains always playing him up. So I always think he should have a slightly grumpy look to him. Don't worry if we dig in a bit and it looks funny on the mask, we can always bring the mask in a little bit as well. And we can gently shape where we want to go with the mask anyway. On one side I've gone in, one side I've gone down, so I'm just going to come back over here and go across a bit. So I get them a little bit more. Just trying to create those shadows. The light's coming from my right hand side, which is why the shadow will be better on this side than it will be on that side. But the shadows are there on both sides. Then what we're going to do is we're going to very gently nibble the top of the nose here. So we're going to go a line, and then we're just going to cut into it. Very, very gently. And that is going to join up with the other side here. This has to be gentle cuts. Cannot stress how gently this needs to be, having done all that work. Same on the other side. Turn it so you're comfortable with it. Don't worry about what way around he is. Gentle cuts. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to worry too much about cleaning them up online. I'll do that afterwards. And then we can just shape that nose a little bit. It's quite angular on one side, this nose. Okay, so now we've got his nose and the mask running across. So we've got some definition here. We can nibble into this so we can angle it so that the face goes into the mask, so we can create a little bit more shadow. Which you can see I've done there. I can do the same with the other side. Okay. So it's looking relatively good. At this stage now, we would need a sharp pencil so I can show you what the next bit is. I don't have one. Organised, Ben, come on. So in this corner, round about there, and round about there, I think. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to mark about there, and I want it to be the same on this side, about there. Just take a look at it. Does that look level? It does to me. Taking our knife, I'm going to do a little V in the corner here, not too heavy, just a little V. So slightly down on one side, slightly up on the other. Just bearing in mind you don't want to cut into that brow you've just done. And then I'm going to just chop and just nip the corner out of that. Okay, I can play around with this to my heart's content, really, and get this deep by coming in at a slightly different angle. Some fuzzies in there in the way, but I'm going to do the same on the other. This looks better the deeper we could have got those gouge cuts. And then we'll just go in and nip that triangle out of there. Okay, we can just go in there if we wanted to and just roll that into the eye, into the corner, corner of the nose, just to define it a bit more if we wanted. Just be careful bringing those eyes too close together, because you'll start creating a different type of look in the character. But again, do it, see what it looks like. See how it looks. Okay. I'm aware I've got a bit of a bad cut over here. In fact, should I get rid of that now? You can just undercut as much as you like in here, just to create those shadows. Okay. And what we did in the eye, sorry, jumping around again. I can't help it. I see something and I think I've got to change that. So this side's the same. V cut up and down, making it relatively level. And just remove that corner. See, and again we can nibble away at it, or we can leave it, and there's nothing to say at this stage. If you're a little bit nervous about it being a good one and you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, I really like the way this looks, I don't want to make this cut, then don't paint it. Paint it if you need to. And I will just play around with this type of thing all day long, me. I love creating as many shadows as I can in it. And then over the other side, remembering where we put our marks, because that will keep the eyes relatively the same size. Okay. This side of his cheek needs to come in to match the other side. Just take your time just to level everything out. Make sure everything's looking okay at this stage, because once you cut that mouth in, you're not going to want to, well, you maybe might not be able to go back in and shape something. And the mouth on these little figures carries so much character. You know, I think some people get really hung up on the eyes in carvings, and sometimes the mouth can really make a drastic difference. And I'm talking about these small ones, obviously. Now you can see on that eye, I've taken the corner, you can almost see the eye in there now. I will sometimes take tip of my knife and just drag it along the bottom there and just join them up. And on something like this, I'm hoping if I just take a slice out, you might be able to see that very small slice, I could almost separate the eye And I could go back and just put my tip back in again, very, very small. Come back and nibble away again. And that will just create that eye. See? And we can do on both sides. That was probably a bit heavy with my knife, so I need to be a bit careful. That side was a lot heavier. I need to be a bit careful that I keep them the same. Having done all that, I don't want two completely different looking eyes. Okay, I don't know if that makes any difference though. Just the lighting or not. Yeah, you can probably just about see those lines in better now. Probably don't need to do the top because you won't see it because of the brow, but I'm going to do it anyway. It will help. It will help with the painting. And you could do what I'm about to do here and go relatively deep. And you could bring that eye in a little. Go, see, that's going to give him a slightly more sinister look. So I've done it on one, so I've got to do it on the other now. See, we've got a sinister look on the eyes now. Now he is wearing a mask, so we don't have to worry about all those wrinkles that I tend to have a habit of doing. But I do want to create a little bit more interest in the face. So I am just gonna play around a little bit with this because it just creates a little bit more interest in the piece. So I am going to do a couple of marks coming through his mask because the mask is so tight that he's going to have these little marks on him. It's going to be a tight mask and it's showing his age. He's a bit of an aging Batman. Yeah. Okay. Could shape him. You could shape him around here. You could make him a little bit more narrow. You could do several of them, and you could make one podgy, one real thin. There's a piece on the back here that just won't take the blade very well. Anyway, I was still playing around with that brow area. I could knock this bit in to make him look even more sinister, but I quite like the look of it now. That coming in there, I could just give him a few scores across the top, just for some extra detailing. You don't have to do this. Just doing this for, I don't know, make him look slightly different. Make him look like he's frowning a touch. I might bring that in a touch, actually. You can see how much I plan these things out, can't you? Make up as I go. just got to be a little bit careful I don't bring that in too much and then it no longer looks like a mask, because all I've actually done is my own normal faces. So I just need to be a bit careful there. I can see again that that side of his cheek's not running the same as the other side. I can see that. That's better. Right then. Okay, so what shall we do with the... What shall we do with the mouth? Let's get pencil first. And I always like to give him a bit of a smug sort of look. So I'm thinking we go... And I always like to get a bit of movement on him. Shall we give him a little bit of a look? It's a little bit like that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring it down a bit more. Okay. Just looking at that. Take a second just to... For some reason I'm thinking that might be a touch too low. I can't find my rubber, so I'm just going to take that off. I think that was a touch too low. That's a bit better. That's a bit better. So I'm going to put my knife in. Tip my knife in, and I'm just going to follow that line. Like so. And then I'm just going to go back up to that.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
That's my Alexa again. Alexa, tell us a joke.
Why do mummies like Christmas? Because of all the wrapping.
Very good. Very good. So, let's just... Oh yeah, that hook on the lip looked good, didn't it? Let's just go. Let's just go here. Oh, I got myself a right grumpy Batman. I had that in my head from the start, didn't I? So it's just, the wood's just kind of agreeing with me. Huh. Yeah, he is not happy. That's how I like him. So I'm just going to come up the tip of my blade and just be careful not to remove all that hard work you've just put in. Now what we're going to do here is a very small chip cut. This might not work. Yeah. Now we've got him looking proper grumpy. So let's bring that down a touch. Somebody said Abbey carvings sell 90% more of the times than unhappy looking carvings. So I think I probably won't be selling too much. All my guys look grumpy. I love a grumpy look. I think it gives them so much more character. How are we looking, would you reckon? Yeah. He's looking proper grumpy. What we could do is give him a little bit of an bottom lip here. Not that he needs one. But I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm just going to do is just score that lightly and then come up and nibble it again like I did with the upper lid. With the upper lip, sorry. Just gonna follow a similar line much more shallower than I did with the upper lid, and that should create our lip. I'll probably adjust this a little bit in a minute, but for now, that is probably where I'm going to go with it. So it's a bit heavy on this side. Okay, and then that line that I've got down there, I'm just going to drag that down so that I can bring that lip into it, and then I can make that more lip-like, which I would need to remove this piece here because that your lip wouldn't make that type of shape. So I need to bring that across. And then I can get some depth underneath this one. I can't help but getting right into the details. I see some of these wonderful carvers who do some incredible videos. I think they make simplicity look so good, and think, oh, it's amazing. I can't help it. I end up getting into the very small details, because little cuts like that one in there stand out lovely with the paint later on, and can just make it look so much better. So I end up getting caught up in doing that. And then we've got the same over here a little bit. So I'm going to do the same here. We can adjust all this. But there we go. We've got a real grumpy looking Batman going on. And where I can get some shadow in, I will. I'm just going to make a couple of delicate cuts to bring that lip into the mouth area there. Do like that shadowing. Do like that shadowing that's come out there. It's come out quite well. I think what we'll do is I just bring this one across a bit. Okay, there he is. We could have a little nick in his chin. Probably didn't need that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I just like giving it a little bit of flavour to it. If you've got a gouge like this one, you might want to just put a small gouge line going up towards the nostrils. You could cut in nostrils here, but do you know what? Such a small piece. I don't really see the point. So we've got a bit of a flare going on. What do we think? Is that a grumpy looking Batman or what? And then we've got his hands in his pockets. Got some feet I might play around with, but I don't think we need to see me playing around with feet. And we're there, aren't we? That's a Batman if ever I've seen one. And he's going to have his cape on. Oh, I'll tell you what I've missed. I'm terrible at the back of my carvings. I'm really terrible. But what I was going to do is make it look a bit more cape-like. So there, maybe like that. Drag that in. Maybe down like that. Maybe down like that. Just so it's not flat. That's all I was thinking. So I'll get my soft V tool. just run that up so it's not a straight line. Do the same on the other side. I wouldn't normally use those pencil marks, obviously. I've done that for the benefit of the video, because now I'm going to have to wash him. We'll try and cut it out. And up like that. And we could, oh, I tell you what we could do. We could make that go into the floor here. And then, if you really wanted to spend some time on this dude, you could really cut that in. Yeah, you could really cut that in, and you could really get that, you could get some depth in there. Just make sure you don't catch these corner pieces or anything, because you're not going to see much of that from the front, see? But that's why we took the legs in, so you can see the cape. So you can see the cape now. But we're just going to, yeah, I expect with a bit more planning that would have come out a little bit better, but you know, for the sake of this video and showing you that we can do something a little bit different. We can do something a little bit different here. That looks cool. If you did this with a bigger, say, 1.25 inch square, or even 1.5 inches and go in a little bit bigger, you could actually shape this cloak. That would look cool, give it some proper movement. Anyway, I could spend ages just playing around with little figures like this. There he is. There he is. Our little Batman. He's come out well. Painting is going to bring him to life, I can guarantee you that. That is what we are going to do on the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this. I certainly enjoy it. I always enjoy it when I get onto the face. So, there he is. Just try him with the light out. See the shadows now, especially on the eyes. Sorry, get me no. On that mouth. Oh, we got some nice shadows there on that nose with the cat coming in. He's looking good. Put some marks on here. I am going to round this a little bit off camera. In the back. With more planning, that could have that back piece could look really good, I think. Could have had it a little bit more wavier. Anyway, the cape's going to be black anyway. And when I put him on my shelf, I'm probably not going to see it again. So, yeah, there he is. Right, next one, we're going to paint him. I promise you, it's going to be good. See you on the next one. Hey, thanks for spending time with me. Appreciate it. See you soon. Hey everybody, my name's Ben Yard and I'm the Somerset Whittler, and we have now completed our Batman. Let me see if I can get my lighting a bit better. It's Friday evening, but the light outside the studio is kind of still brightish, so cast a different light in here than usual. There he is. That's our Batman. We're going to bring him to life with some paint now. There he is, and we kept him quite narrow in here so we could see his cloak as we went round, which should pop when we do our colouring around the sides all the way to the floor. But we've got him on a bit of a hearth. We could have turned that into brickwork or something, but we haven't. We've kept it nice and easy. And we're going to do him grey. Could put a bit of yellow with a black batting or something like that here if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep it nice and simple. And then a black cloak, and obviously a black mask, and his face. So what we're going to start, it won't be quite the same as my normal painting because I've done this guy before, and the colouring was a little bit light with the way I usually do it. And when I buffed him up, some of the black come out in a way I wasn't overly keen on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pipette and my water, and I am going to fill this one up And then I'm going to use a very small amount of red. Again, acrylic paint, doesn't matter what you use. I use this for other stuff as well. And I've got lots of it, so that's what I'm using. I'm going to get myself a brush. Let's go with, what should we go with? Let's go with that one there. Always ruining brushes, I don't look after them. Add a little dot on the red, just a little amount, and then in the water and mix it up. It's surprising with the red how dark it goes with the smallest of amounts. So I like to keep it really light. Got a slight fuzzy on this chap, on his cheek, that I'm just going to remove. And I take it away from the camera and I can't see it. Isn't that just typical? Just as I'm about to paint, all of a sudden I'm seeing tons. Just typical. Anyway, let's leave it as it is. There he is again. Okay, so with that light paint, we're just gonna go in and around the skin area, which is obviously his chops and his what he's showing of his nose. So that I can tell is already too light, so I'm just gonna put another dot of red in. Can be quite surprising different days sometimes for me how this red will take, and on other days it doesn't. But we don't want it too strong. We did say when we were carving him we were going to make him a little bit like somebody's father who's dressed up for their little boy's party. Batman dressed up, so we might end up giving him a bit of 5 o'clock shadow. And the reason why I haven't completely decided on that is because there's quite a lot of grey in this fella already, so I may change my mind on that. Sometimes I like to just paint the flesh tones and see how they come out before deciding on that. There he is. Then I think we'll go to the grey. So again, we'll water it down, but not too much on this one. So we'll just do a couple of spots of water in this one. Bit of grey. Gonna need more than that. Okay. And we're gonna go around his outfit in our Batman grey. Like I say, a little bit heavier than I would normally paint. And on these type of figures, or my normal ones, I would tend to wax them, Howard's Feeding Wax. I might not on this one, because I might just give this one to my little boy, in which case I will probably put a spray, a lacquer spray on him. Which will be better for him continually handling him. It will just give a little bit better protection. So anyway, all over with a grey. As that skin tone red is drying on his face, we'll get a better idea how that's dried, whether we want another coat, whether we want to do it a little bit thicker or not. Okay, a little bit better if I push that to one side. I haven't got a huge amount of room on my worktop. So he was fun to carve, didn't take too long. And as I probably said as I was doing him, there's pretty much the same sort of concept to any figure, really. If we wanted to do a Robin to go with Batman, we could do a similar type of thing, but obviously don't do his ears. And then when I was talking about the fact that we bring these 2 points together here and here, we could cut the ears in on the side. And the mask, we would just take higher up here and up here, and bring cheeks in, and obviously across the top. In fact, I might do Robin in the future. So look out for that. I have carved the Joker, which you could see on my Instagram, and that was a request from somebody. He was really tricky. I took a couple of attempts because the smile was really difficult. I had no issues colouring him. The painting of him was always going to be the best part of him, but getting that smile the way I wanted it to was really tricky. It took me a couple of attempts. One of them actually ended up in the bin. Well, in the fire. Anyway. So there's the grey. I think the grey's probably going to need another coat, but I might decide that later on once it's dry. I mean, Batman's going to be relatively easy to paint. So there's the grey on him. And see how that flesh tone is taking already? So I'm thinking we're not a million miles away with that. We might wait for that to totally dry. We might want to touch the lips more. We might want to change the lip colour slightly. Not sure. We'll come back to that. Now, so our next colour is going to be black. Again, we want this relatively heavy, I think. Otherwise, all we're going to end up doing is doing too many coats. And I don't have the time to do that today. These pots are great, but then all of a sudden it will spit loads out and then I'll be excess of paint. Okay, so let's go to that. Let's go to the black. Touch in the back just to see how that takes. That's pretty good. I should have mixed up more of that. That's going to look good. So hopefully what we did with this one, which was slightly different to my last one, is we made him a little bit more narrow in the legs. And a little bit more narrow in the arms than I usually would. So we came away from that sort of, I don't know, like gnome-y size shape. And we did that so that when he stands, you can see his cape. See? You can see his cape. Which I thought was a pretty cool extra. And then we did some lines on the back just to break up the back of the cape, just to give it a little bit more of a cape look about it. There we go. Just be careful how this runs. So you can see how thin we've gone on this cape. See that black line has come through there? That's just where the watered down black has come through. So you may want to just give that some consideration before you paint, because if you water it down too much, it will seep and come through. And there is a way around that. You could use an oil beforehand. We could have used like a boiled linseed oil, and that would have stopped or at least restricted some of that weeping. I don't use that because I have found over time, sometimes, not all the times, but on some of my figures, it has warped the colour over time. That's not on all of them, that's just on a couple where I thought to myself, okay, might change the way I do this a little bit. And also I find that when I do it at certain colours, and I've got an idea in my head how I want certain colours to look, boiled linseed oil, sometimes it just changes that tone a touch. But then I am fussy when it comes to the painting aspect. Should be using a bit thinner paintbrush around here, really. Okay. Just remember, like I said, this is thinned down quite a bit. Might not have needed to thin it down that much. So we just need to be careful that doesn't run up into the face, which I think we've kind of avoided relatively well up till now. There we go. Just leaving a little gap for the paint to run if it decides to. And then just coming back and just touching that in if it doesn't. Okay. So I quite like doing the superheroes with a slight different look about them. It's pretty cool. Let's do his feet. It's not easy when you're doing these videos of staying on camera all the time. But I think I'm getting slightly better at it over time. And listen, this is my hobby, as I'm sure it is yours, so I am not a professional at this type of thing and don't claim to be. So I just think it's quite nice that I talk to a camera while I'm doing it, because I'll be doing it anyway. And you guys get to join me on the trip, and you know, one or two of you might learn something, pick up a trick, and that'd be great, because that's how I did when watching other people. So I'm sure passing it on is a particularly brilliant phrase, but you know, if I've learned it from somebody, and then you can teach it to somebody else, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool way of doing it. Good thing about that wax is, the Howard Feeden wax, is that you can put it on, leave it for, say, half an hour or something like that. And you can buff it out, it'll take some of the colour off, give it, if that's what you want, obviously, which give it a little bit of an antique-y sort of, or an oldie look rather than an antique look. Weathered, which look quite good on a sailor or that type of thing, if that's a look you're looking for. Sometimes some of these paints, I see some of the people paint them and they're so thick and heavy. Kind of takes away from the carving, in my opinion. But then again, that's my opinion. And that is not gospel. When you turn the figure upside down, just be careful, like I say, with the water, and that it doesn't run where you don't want it to run. And with the black and the grey, and like I've said before, with the white and silver, you don't want to water it down too much, because you're just going to find yourself going backwards over it quite a few times. Here we go, he's looking pretty good. Let's do the back of his head. Trying to grab him in all sorts. I would normally leave him to dry a little bit and then come back and do a little bit more while I'm working on another project, but for the sake of trying to do a video and getting it done, we're just going to go right on ahead. Hopefully I don't drop him. I'll stick my dirty fingers where I don't want to. It's tricky when I want to turn him then. I think I should possibly change brushes here because this one's frayed a little bit. Do I have to hand a better brush? Let's just get a little bit closer. This is quite a big, heavy brush. And I am going to change it, I think. Yeah, let's do it before I ruin it. So let's pop that one in there. Let's change. Let's put a drop of that back in. So we could wait for him to dry and go back over him if you want that thick black look. We could leave him like this to dry, and then when we put the, but just be prepared that when you put the Howard Feason wax on, depending on how much you're going to buff him up afterwards, that some of that's going to come out, which is actually quite a good look, I think. But I can understand if you didn't. Slightly less watered down colours as we get closer to the eyes. Two reasons. I don't want to go back and do it again. That's the main reason. And we don't want that to run up into the eye. And I'm finding myself with shaky hands at the exact moment I don't want them. That, my friends, is the sound of concentration. Just can't quite get my... I just can't quite get my brush right on that tip of that eyelid. Seem to have gone down deep in there, so I might have to work it down a touch. So naturally, when you buff him up, if you go down that route with the wax, wherever you've got cuts, that's likely to be where they get a change, slight change in colour from the wax, and that will give him a slightly different look as well. So for example, I've cut a couple of frown lines, not that you need frown lines with a mask, but I've cut a couple of frown lines up here. When I put feed wax on him and buff him up later, some of that paint is going to come off of that area, and that's been purposely done just to give it that slight different look. Like I say, if you don't want that to happen, you might want to put another coat on later and not buff the wax, or at least not buff it too much. Sometimes it's good to get that run with a little bit more water, which is why sometimes I go into the water and sometimes I'm not. It's simply because sometimes I want it to run, so I don't have to get quite so close. I can just get it to run slightly closer to where I'm trying to go without the risk of going there. If that makes sense. There we go. I think for a first run, that's quite good. What we'll do is I'll just let him dry for a bit so that I can go in and do the eyes once he's dry, because my fingers are going to be covered in the black I've just painted. But we've now got him looking closer to where we want him to look. There we go. Look. And we got that cape. See, we got that cape looking, which was part of the plan from the beginning, just to have that cape so that we can see through the legs. So far, so good. Let's let him dry for a bit and I'll come straight back. Okay, back. I just put the whites in his eyes because my eyesight's not good these days, so I need to bring him closer. And there's not much point in doing that on camera where you're just watching me dotting whites in the eyes. I think we're all capable of doing that, or capable of knowing how to do that. Okay. So we have two options now. We can go back over this grey. See those? Try and bring it up close. See those lines where I've actually get focus. That's because I'm holding him when I've got dirty fingers. But when we put the wax on, if we buff it, these are the type of areas where the paint will come off and it will give it that sort of oldie worldy look if we wanted to keep it that way. If we didn't, then we need to go back over it. And we could just go back over it. We could, of course, if we want to be really clever, go back over certain areas. So certain areas have got different tones. Perhaps we would want to leave, I don't know, certain areas looking a little bit rougher than others, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to go back over where all my fingers were touching. And of course, if you wanted that look where you got the wood coming through, you would probably water that down all a little bit more than I did. And possibly not necessarily go back over it and then buff it up. And if you've got a nice piece of wood, you'd see some of the grain coming through possibly. Okay, that tray was in the way there. So that's where we are with it. I went back over and just did another little lick of the red. I did 2 licks of the red over the lips. So the lips stand out a little bit at a distance. What we can do if we want, we could take that grey, we could roll that down a little bit more, and we could just put a little bit across his chin area. I'll probably make those lips pop a little bit more on camera, and it will give him that 5 o'clock shadowy look. Wouldn't necessarily encourage doing this because of the fact he's so grey already. It'll just give him that sort of that 5 o'clock shadowy sort of moody type look. And if we weren't happy with that, we could go back over it. If we wanted to, could go back over with the red. We could. So I've got this terrible habit of licking my paintbrush. We could just maybe go back over the nose. Like so. So the nose stands out a little bit. And there we go. That's pretty much our Batman without getting into too many.
Your question. According to Wikipedia, Earth is the planet we live on.
Alexa, stop. Doing well with Alexa, haven't I? She's done that on nearly all of mine. I have a little Alexa dot sat on my top so she can play Ed Sheeran music or something along those lines to me. Anyway, What do you think? He come out all right, didn't he? I'm going to buff him up when he's dry. I'm not going to do anything else to him. I'm going to buff him up with the Howard's Feed and Wax. And where's my favourite brush? I've got a boot brush here, but it's a bit aggressive. So I have a horsehair brush somewhere. I'm terrible with misplacing stuff, I am. Anyway, it gives you a little bit longer to look at him anyway. And he will sit with those boys over there. When we're done, I will come back once I've done him, I'll come back and film him for another couple of minutes so you can see him done with the feed and wax and standing up properly in a different area. And he's done. Thanks for joining. Batman. There he is, everybody. Try and get him into focus. There is our finished Batman in all his glory. We put some wax on him. We buffed him up. The brush I was talking about in the last one was that horse hair brush. It's really nice and soft. Just be careful when you buff especially a character that's got black in him. It does get left on here, so you do need to clean it off and wash it off. Otherwise, your next character is going to get a light buffing of the colour. So there he is. Pretty cool. If I bring him closer to the camera, hopefully the focus continues. You can see, I'll turn him over actually. See where we put the Howard wax on and we've buffed him so much that the colour just comes off a little bit, gives it that slightly antique-y look. I'm just trying to see if I can get some focus on this. I'm just moving too quick, I think. Across the whole character. So yeah, there he is. 1x1 by 4 basswood sticks, the size of the bottom that he's standing on. And that's Batman, and we can do different facial expressions on him. Or we could paint him slightly differently. We've done a Joker before. Maybe we will do a Robin on the next one. But there he is. He's finished. Hands in his pockets. Lazy Batman. Nice and simple. Nothing too complicated. That's our finished piece. Hope you liked him. Hope you enjoyed this. And I'll catch you on the next project. Ta-da for now.